Hey guys, so it's been a few days since Ganyu released, and after playing with her kit and testing out her character, she's been absolutely insane. This video, we'll be talking about her as a charge attack DPS, testing out her weapon choices specifically between Skyward Harp and Prototype Crescent, and then at the end there are a couple clips of me playing her in Abyss. I have also tested Refinement rank 2 stringless, but I think it underperforms even against a Prototype Crescent at Refinement rank 1. Now, since most of these clips are recorded in Abyss, make sure to keep in mind that there are damage multipliers, so you won't necessarily see these damage numbers when playing in the overworld. Also, for clips outside of the Abyss, there are no foods used at all. As for Ganyu, she's level 85 with 33% crit, 256 crit damage. I am using a crit damage circuit because she can get crit from her resonance to bring it up to 48%. She can also get 20% extra crit after firing her first shot due to her Ascension passive. So that brings up to like about 68% crit. But we are still going to be testing out the crit rate circlet. Now these are my stats if you're curious when I'm using the Skyward Harp and the crit rate circlet. It ends up feeling much better, so I would suggest this is what you go for at least when you are building with the Skyward Harp. As for constellations, I think Constellation 1 is probably the only worthwhile constellation to get. It's very high value, 15% cryo reduction when hit by an arrow. And as for talents, level 7 talents, 326% multipliers. I think this is worth investing, but for the purposes of this video, we'll just be using a level 7 talent. As for her Ascension passives, her second passive grants her 20% cryo damage boost when standing within her elemental burst circle, and it affects all party members. While her first Ascension passive gives her 20% extra crit rate for the next Frostflake Arrow or Frostflake Bloom, which is her level 2 charge attack after firing the first Frostflake Arrow. What this means is that she can actually buff herself with 20% crit rate and 20% cryo damage without actually relying on teammates. Now you can see that my Prototype Crescent is actually only level 80 and Refinement rank 1. So you can still get more damage if you are using a level 90 or a higher Refinement rank Prototype weapon. But here are my stats when I'm using the Prototype Crescent: 42% crit and 187% crit damage with about 2000 attack. Everything else remains the same. We are also going to be looking at a level 90 Refinement rank 2 stringless to see just how it fares. Now, because we're going to do the first part of testing inside Abyss 7 with the Bennet and Sucrose combo, I'll show you my Bennet and Sucrose stats so you can see just how much they actually influence the damage. Bennet is using a level 70 sacrificial sword and the 4-piece noblesse in order to buff a little bit more attack, but aside from that, it's really nothing special. He also has Constellation 1, which means he's going to buff no matter what HP you're on, and a level 6 Fantastic Voyage. As for Sucrose, she's using the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers and just the 4-piece Viridescent Veneer set. These artifacts aren't really upgraded, they're kind of just there for the 4-piece set, so she doesn't really have a lot of elemental mastery that she gains from her artifacts, so you can see that it's only at 100. So her passive doesn't really highly affect the damage. Now as for teams, we're going to be running both Cryo and Pyro Resonance teams. One big disclaimer is that this isn't meant to be some in-depth testing. This is just a really quick showcase to show you guys that Prototype Crescent is a very viable option when it comes to weapons as a free-to-play, especially when compared to the Skyward Harp. We are also going to be using this Abyss buff, which grants us 30% extra attack. Now, in the multiple times I was testing this, I actually managed to hit a high with the Skyward Harp, and you'll see that number in a short while. few important things to keep in mind. The bloom is actually an AoE damage with a decent range, which means that you can actually melt a couple enemies in one go. You can also shoot the floor and still create the bloom explosion. Shooting the floor is actually the better way usually to deal with enemies that tend to move a lot. Another thing to remember is because the bloom is attached to the arrow as one entity, it does get affected by damage multipliers that supposedly only applies to the arrow, such as from the Amos bow. What you've seen just now is the high from the Skyward Harp, 106,000 damage. Now we'll be testing the prototype Crescent, and you'll actually be able to see that the damage isn't very far off. With the level 80 Refinement rank 1 prototype Crescent bow, we were able to do 90k damage to the enemy. Now for the last clip, I'll speed it up for you as we test the Stringless, and you'll see that it's actually not very good even though it is in a melt composition. Here, we are just doing some charge attack testing to the Pyro boss with the same setups that we were using without any buffs except for Cryo Resonance. All in all, the prototype Crescent is absolutely a top contender for DPS weapons, especially for free to play. While I'm certain there are more weapons that are viable with Ganyu, the prototype Crescent is farmable and craftable, yet it is still doing considerable damage, making it, in my opinion, one of the best options for free to play. Of course, if you have the Skyward Harp or the Amos bow, you could and definitely should be using that. Now here, I have tested that the Wondrous Troupe 4 set bonus does affect the Frostflake bloom damage, making it quite viable if you do have a fully workable set. If not, it really isn't recommended to farm them as they are not guaranteed and only drop from world bosses, which require twice as much resin as domains to complete. Therefore, they are highly inefficient. With that being said guys, the rest of the video is going to be clips of gameplay, so I hope that this video has helped some of you to see just how amazing she is, and I would even say she is quite broken. I may or may not be going for C1 to test out her damage even more, but I think at this point in the game, there really isn't a need to go for C1 as she is extremely strong even at C0. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Your support is greatly appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one.
禁止。やっ
すぐに終わらせる。
やっ
そろそろ予想外だ。
相関化粧。やっ
これでいい。
ここだよ。
まずはこれを。
ついていきます。相関化粧。
いや、いでよ。
やっ
難攻不落。
天に召せ冒険だ。
おさわり禁止。